Hello chess friends and welcome to your of Chess channel and welcome back to our 150 attack series. So in this series I'm going to show you a very nice and effective way how to beat the modern defense, how to beat the Pirc defense, and yesterday we have started also our 150 attack approach against the King's Indian structure. So the King's Indian structure would be something like knight to f6, d6, then g6, bishop to g7 after the first move of course by white when we play the move d4. And okay, this 150 attack, as I mentioned before, is really great. You have really great attacking chances. You are the one that you're on the attacking side, so your opponent is on the reacting side, which is in chess I think a beautiful thing. When you are attacking, we're not defending. And today we're starting a different line. Today we're analyzing this early bishop to g4 move by black. It's quite a popular line that black is playing many times. Yesterday we have seen the delayed bishop to g4 move. Yesterday in our analysis the move bishop to g4 was used when we start a flank attack with h4 h5. Then black is trying to get a blockade around the square h5, so it was a defensive idea to play the move bishop to g4 move. Now in this analysis today we'll see the move bishop to g4 as an attacking method, because when the knight is on f3, black is hoping to mess up your pawn structure by taking out the knight. Then after something like g takes f3 or e takes f3, your pawn structure would be messed up, and then black is hoping to get a nice positional game. So this line is very important. As I said, maybe you'll see many sidelines now in our series. That's the thing about the 150 attack. You should really study this opening hard because it's a cool method, but still of course it has so many opportunities for white and for black, so I really try to cover everything in this series. So let's see now this early bishop to g4 idea. As we said yesterday, we have seen delayed bishop to g4 idea. Please also, as I said many times in my series, check out the series from the beginning, part 1, part 2, part 3 and so on, in order to get a better understanding what will happen now in this video today. So d4 is of course our first move. Our opponent can play the move knight to f6, knight to f3, g6, so he's trying now to reach the King's Indian structure, and we're going now into this classical system with knight to c3, knight to f3, d4, e4, and after move d6 we're launching our 150 attack setup. So we're playing bishop to e3, queen to d2, and then we want to, as usual, play bishop to h6, straight off the bishop pair, play h4, h5, h6, g6, then getting our queen and rook battery on the h file, as we've seen many times in our 150 attack series, and maybe even deliver checkmate on the h file. So now after kingside castling, still we want to play queen to d2, and now comes this move bishop to g4. So this is now an early bishop to g4 line by black. So yesterday we have seen some delayed bishop to g4 moves where black played c6, b5, and then when we launched an h4 h5 attack, then as I said in the beginning of this video, bishop to g4 was an idea to block our potential progress with the move h5. Now this bishop to g4 idea is a little bit more of an attacking idea, because as said here, black is trying to play bishop takes f3. After g takes f3, your pawn structure would be messed up, and I think then black could have maybe some good chances in the continuation of the game. So now it's time to make a good reaction. Our best move is here the move knight to g5, and there are not many things that black can make, and what black is hoping also for is to deflect the knight from the e5 square, because many times when the knight is on f3, we have seen also many times in our 150 attack methods that we want to create a breakthrough with the move e5, and the knight on f3 is of course supporting the e5, so that's why e5 is a perfect idea, perfect attacking idea. And then when the knight is deflected, for instance on d5, then h4 h5 makes even more sense, because the knight is not controlling the h5 square anymore. So that's why with the move knight to g5, black is hoping to deflect your knight from e5, and many times I've seen this mistake by black. It's really incredible that black is making many times this mistake e5. And believe me or not, I played one game against an international master. Really he was a strong international master. He played e5 immediately, and e5 is losing for black immediately, which is really wild. It's really a dirty opening trap that you have here. D takes e5 you should take immediately, d takes e5, queen to d8, rook to d8, and now with bishop to c4 you are winning the game, because your opponent could try maybe rook to f8, but now comes bishop to c5. So you see the rook has to step back here, has black cannot defend the f7 square. Black could maybe try here knight to d7, we take, then we play h3, even bishop to e6. Look at this, everything is falling apart. This was one of my games, as I said, against an international master level player, which is really incredible. He made this kind of a mistake and lost the game eventually. So this is not good for black for sure. So let's go back. Maybe your opponent could try after this move e5 and queen to dx, rook to dx, bishop to c4. Your opponent could try maybe this idea, rook to d7 to cover himself on f7, but you just play h3. Whatever your opponent is doing, he can play maybe bishop to h5, but still you want to play here g4. Your opponent could try h6, we simply take, g takes h5. Okay, your opponent could have fun with this idea, but now with h takes g6, look at this, your opponent is losing the f7 pawn. He's losing also here this pawn. We can play bishop to c5 if king on f8 happens. So as I said, this is simply a pure destruction of the King's Indian structure. So here your opponent could try maybe immediately h6 to attack the knight, but again we want to play knight to f7. After rook to f7, of course we take first out the rook, king to f7, and we can also take out this one. We have again a situation where we're up the exchange, so it's game over for black. So as I said many times, I'm not sure why black is playing the move e5, and it's a huge mistake that you can punish immediately. So let's see now different ideas here for black. So after, again we will see now this early bishop to g4. So the idea is clear, black is hoping to get bishop to f3. Now we play knight to g5. What you could meet here is this move h6. Again, you should not be bothered about this move. This is again not a good move. Here we can play h3, we can play h takes g5, but now after here h takes g4, your opponent could try knight to g4, but you have also this pawn to take. And actually what happened here is a destruction again of the King's Indian structure, because black is getting destroyed by our 150 attack method. What we want to do now is just to get rid of the knight here with f3, play bishop to h6 like our usual goal was in the beginning, then sneak in with the queen on the h file and deliver checkmate. It's a pure beautiful idea. So your opponent could try now maybe c5 to, I don't know, to trade off the queens, which could be a good defensive idea. c5 makes sense because after d takes c5, d takes c5, your opponent could trade off the queens. Then your 150 attack is not working if the queens are off the board. But actually that's exactly what you should do. D takes c5, d takes c5. But look at this now with queen to f4, the knight is loose on the board. f6 doesn't make sense. I hope you realize bishop to c4 is going to happen. Then your bishop is becoming the best, the monstrous piece on the board. So your opponent could try maybe to step back, but now with queen to h2, we're threatening now bishop to f6 with queen to h7 checkmate. So that's why your opponent has to create some breathing spaces. But now with e5, we're winning the game for sure. Knight to d7, we can play a check, then bishop to h6, and even if black takes, look at this, queen to h8 is a beautiful checkmate. So this is not working, I think, for black, this this c5 idea. What your opponent could do, let's go back after bishop to g4, as we said, knight to g5, h6, h3. He could play this kind of an idea. He could play maybe knight to c6 to try attack your pawn on d4, but now we play f3. As I said, that's now our main goal. Look at this, knight to f6. This was one of my games against a 2000 rated player. Bishop to h6, we can have here this idea, knight to h5, but you can guess what the best next move is. It's of course this beautiful common rook sacrifice in the 150 attack, rook to h5. Now after g takes h5, we play queen to g5, and it's a forced checkmate in one. So there's nothing that can be done. We're playing this checkmate for sure. So let's go back. Your opponent could try after move bishop to g4 and knight to g5. He could play h6. We play h3, and now what he could do is to get the bishop back to h5. Then he's hoping that that you are retreating, and then he will get his goal, his main goal that he tried in the beginning, to mess up your pawn structure. But you should not worry even in this types of lines. Now you have to be really careful. Now you should take knight takes f7, and let's see now possible continuations. Your opponent could take maybe with the king, but it's again not good, because we can play g4 after bishop to g4, h takes g4, knight to g4. We can play this one, bishop to c4. So again, I think our light square bishop is becoming the best piece on the board, and black gave up his light square bishop, so he cannot protect his light squares anymore. So here e6 could be an opportunity. Now we can even queenside castling. Okay, maybe black could have some fun. Will take out your bishop on e3, queen to e3, and maybe he'll try to protect the e6 pawn. But now comes also a stunning tactic. Don't forget about this kind of a tactic. Now knight to d5 could be working after e takes d5, bishop to d5. Look at this, the b7 pawn is hanging. You're getting destroyed here for sure. So even f4, e5, I'm not sure, but every move is perfectly fine for white. So let's go back after move knight to f7 that we have seen. Now your opponent could take out with a rook, but now again we play g4. If bishop to g4, then h takes g4, knight to g4, and again bishop to c4 is at least winning the exchange. So it's game over for black, I think. So after move rook to f7 and g4, your opponent could try to get out of the mess, playing king to h7, but now we play queenside castling. We don't have to rush to take out with the bishop. We will take it out, and even if your opponent takes out here the pawn on g4, look at this, the h file will be opened, and still we have a perfect queen and a bishop battery, a rook attack on the h file. So the h file will be opened even if your opponent gets out of the potential range here by the move bishop to c4. But now with king to h7, he gets even on a worst file, he gets on the h file, where he will be destroyed for sure. So your opponent could try now normal development with knight to c6. We're playing bishop to c4, rook to f8. Here we have bishop to e6. This is really cool. You're protecting even further your g4. And now if your opponent tries, I don't know, something like a6, maybe to launch a flank attack, we just push these pawns further, and now our 150 attack is a perfect attack. So look at this, bishop to g4, h6, g4. Now the h file is even opened, f5, bishop to h6, bishop to h6, queen to h6 is working. So it's a lost game for black for sure. So I really love this methods by white. There are so many beautiful attacking opportunities that you can play. So in my opinion, as we said, bishop to g4, we play knight to g5, h6, h3. He can delay this move, but now knight to f7 is very important. We grab this pawn. This pawn is very important to take, because then our light square bishop becomes the best piece on the board. So let's see now the different approach. Your opponent could try maybe this early bishop to g4 move before he castles. So he doesn't want to castle to get into this early flank attack. So that's why he could try maybe bishop to g4 as an early idea. But now we just should just play h3. We should now kick away this bishop, and your opponent will still stuck with his plan. He's trying to get this position where he could maybe create a static position and block pawn structure with the move e5. But now you should not again worry. You are the one that you're on the attacking side. We have the bishop here. It's time to create dynamics. It's time to create an open game. So your opponent could try maybe this move knight to c6, and believe me or not, he'll play this idea many times. d5, in my opinion, immediately it doesn't make sense, because you get knight to e5, then you have to step back, and now in my opinion the long diagonal for the dark square bishop will be open. So okay, you're not to lose the game because you reach this position, but there are better lines. In my opinion, we should go now simply queenside castling, and we're waiting now our opponent to play the move e5. Okay, do this, but now notice after move e5, the long diagonal for the dark square bishop is locked. So it's a little bit different, because when the long diagonal is open, then I think black could have maybe some tactical opportunities. Although in the previous scenario, again, white should be better, but you should not allow your opponent any counterplay. So in my opinion, this is a much more powerful line. So after move e5 that black is hoping for, you should again not lock the position, because the knights love the lock game, the blocked out game. Now we should open the position, d takes e5. your opponent cannot take with the pawn. That's the beauty about queenside castling, as usual, as we have seen many times in our 150 attack series. The d file attack is the beautiful approach. Now after move knight to e5, we can play queen to e2. We're getting out of the range, but now look at this knight is in danger to f4, g4, g5, h4, h5. So we will just launch this 4 pawns against this knight, and I think this is a perfect position for a 150 attack player. You have the bishop here, you have a semi-open game, you have a dynamic game, and now your opponent could maybe castle, but as I said, we play first g4, queen to e7, maybe can be preparation to create some kind of a rook to d8 idea, maybe with c6 to protect your outpost, potential outpost on d5. So many times in these types of structures, black is trying to play c6, not allowing you to get the knight on d5. But now we play bishop to g2, normal development, rook to d8, and look at this now, f4, your opponent steps back. This was again one of my games. I tried now h4, my opponent tried h5, but now I played through here with move g5, and now with knight to d7, he lost the pawn on c7. So whenever this knight gets deflected from the f6 square, now you have opportunities to grab the square and have, I think, a decent game again. So here I wanted to show what also happens. For instance, if you try here to move c6, then again we play h5, and that's now the beauty. Again, we can open the position, so your opponent didn't battle for the h5 score. Now we should take it, and again the h file will be opened. We can then maybe try again a queen and rook battery. We can still deflect the knight with g5, bishop to f3. I'm not sure. I think you'll find the best move on the board in the continuation of your attack. So as I said, but this is the position that you want to get. 4 versus 3. We have 4 pawns against 3 pawns here on the king side. We have a perfect setup by the bishop, so the bishops are active. Many times in when your opponent is giving up his bishop for your knight, like in this example, many times your bishop is not a good piece, then this trades of pieces make sense. But in this scenario, I think we can agree that the bishop here is perfectly fine here, especially because we have already opened the position. So let's see now different example. Again, we play this idea, bishop to h3, pardon me, h3, bishop takes f3, queen to f3, queenside castling again. We have here knight to d7 idea. If your opponent plays something like queen to c8, maybe to get out of the range of the d file, this could be also a playable idea. Still, we want to launch our flank attack immediately with g5. After rook to e8, notice now bishop to c4 is targeting the f7 square, so don't forget about this opportunity. This is also a beautiful opportunity in the 150 attack. For instance, if your opponent plays something like knight to c6, we play g5, and now the f7 is weak. So maybe your opponent could try e5 breakthrough with the move rook to e8, but notice now he's leaving his f7 unprotected. Many times I just won the game around the square f7 by creating this normal attack with the queen on f3, bishop to c4, and then getting the knight somewhere, opening the f file. So as I said, your opponent could try after queenside castling maybe also to play the move knight from b to d7. Then you play e5. E5 is many times a beautiful motif in the 150 attack. As usual, we have seen I don't know, 10-20 times this e5 as a beautiful motif. So please check out the series from the beginning. Many times the e5 move was a beautiful attacking motif. Look at this, d takes e5, d takes e5. The problem is now you cannot take knight to e5 because we first take the queen. You have to take, now we take out the rook, you take out the rook, but now after g takes f3, the knight is lost, so white is continuing the game with the next rook piece. So you can maybe try knight to e8, but now queen to b7 is winning the game. There are even motifs of rook takes d7, queen to d7, and the queen gets deflected from the defense of the rook on a8. So as I said, this is our study after this early bishop to c4 move, bishop to g4 move. So it's nothing special. We should just kick it away and try to get an open game. Don't allow your opponent to get a close game, because if he manages to get some kind of a position like this, maybe knight to c6, kingside castling, and he plays e4, look at this, then he has good chances. He can play knight to b8, knight to e7. So but hope you realize, even if you maneuver your bishop somewhere, it will be not the best of pieces because it's blocked out by its own pawn structure. Probably even in this position, white should be better, but as I said, there are better methods. Queenside Calton, for instance, in this position, perfectly fine. Knight to d7, look at this, e5. So we should let these positions roll, because never forget about it. You have the bishop pair, and the bishops love the open game. So that's why try to open the game whenever you can. Maybe you'll not reach the same positions, but you reach similar position, and I think the strategical goal is clear when you're playing with the bishop pair on the board. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed the study. I think it was again an attractive study with great attacking motifs, with great attacking opportunities that you can use many times. As I said, I played these ideas against international masters, FIDE masters, against really strong players, so I will not show you something that I'm not playing myself. So I think the 150 attack is beautiful. You see, it works. You have, I think, a great success rate for sure. So it's, I think, one of the best attacks that you can play. So okay, if you want to see more about the 150 attack, please check out our studies from the beginning, part 1, part 2, part 3, and so on. And if you have trouble maybe against e4 and d4, you should also check out my hyper accelerated ranked Sicilian defense series and our Nimzo Indian defense series as a good response to d4 and e4. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what to say, chess is the best, of course.